Let's start with the obvious. Dwarves are the best fantasy race that has ever existed. I mean, think about it. They don't need any special powers, they aren't crazy beastmen or dragons or anything like that. No. They are grumpy little men with big muscles, big beards, and their favorite things are drinking, digging holes, and building cool shit. They are perfect. I love them. Next point. Tower defense games are pretty good. You plan your defenses, you put some towers down, buy a bunch of cool upgrades, and then you watch hordes of enemies fall in a storm of carnage. I love tower defense games. So when I heard there was a game where you get to play as a dwarf running around in a cave building towers and it's a tower defense action game, I thought, this shit is my jam. That game was Dwerve, and there were two problems with my initial assessment. This is not a dwarf. This is not a very good tower defense. Playing Dwerve feels like a surreal tragedy. I wanted to like this game. Please, I want more dwarves in my video games. But after around 4 hours of gameplay and making my way about halfway through the game, I have accepted the fact that somehow this game seems to fall short in practically every area imaginable. Let's begin with the core mechanics. Dwerve's basic premise seems to be, what if we took the action-adventure style old-school gameplay of something like The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and then instead of swordplay, you fought off monsters by swiftly assembling tower defense-style fortifications that do the fighting for you. This is actually a cool concept, but when it comes to the execution, Dwerve fails badly. Rather than using gold or anything like that to place towers, you have a pool of power stones, which each existing tower consumes. A tower takes 2 stones. A trap takes 1 stone. When any of your buildings are destroyed or deconstructed, you quickly regain the stones spent on it. You never get very many of these power stones. In the early game, you have 4, meaning you get to place 2 towers at a time. Eventually, you go up to 6 stones for 3 towers. And with a quick peek at endgame gameplay on YouTube, it looks like by the end of the campaign, you get 8 whole stones, which means you only ever get to use 4 towers at a time. The limited number of towers may not be a huge deal in other games where the towers are a little more individually distinct and compelling, but in the hours I played, I spent most of my time leaning on a ranged crossbow turret and a melee-ranged spinning blade turret. How do they work? They deal damage. That's pretty much it. Very occasionally in encounters, there was an opportunity to use other towers and implement more interesting tactics. I could use a tower with knockback, for example, to launch enemies into pits, killing them. Occasionally, you might need to use another specific tower or trap to counter certain enemy types. But most of the time that was completely unnecessary, and even felt less efficient than simply leaning on the most basic and effective towers. When I play games, I love to experiment with weird strategies and try out all of the different options presented to me. I tried upgrading each different tower I had to the max, and figuring out how to use them to their best potential. And frankly, even when maxed out, trying to use those alternative strategies just felt anemic and pointless. The towers themselves were not even a grand source of any spectacle or wonder. I never had a moment after unlocking a tower or ability where I went, oh gosh, this is so cool, I can't wait to try this one out. Some ways into the game, I unlocked the axe turret, which was advertised as having slow but powerful blows, and I thought, okay, every other tower I've used thus far has felt a little bit flimsy, so I'm looking forward to this one. It did not impress. But enough about the towers. How does the game actually play out? Even with a lackluster skill set, if the moment-to-moment gameplay is interesting, then it's easy to overlook if the towers are bad. Well, when things are going well, gameplay boils down to this. Sit behind your 3 boring generic towers while they slowly mow down waves of enemies. But what about when your defenses fail? Well, the game turns into a bizarre Benny Hill style chase scene where you run from enemies and place your towers down behind you to distract them. The towers deal a little bit of damage and draw the enemy aggro for a few moments before they're finally destroyed. And then you repeat the process until the battle is over, or you manage to find a new place to defend yourself from. Every time this has happened, it just felt stupid. I never felt like I pulled out of a dangerous situation by carefully thinking on my feet and being resourceful with some snap judgments. Instead, it just felt like, oh boy, here we go again. It didn't feel like a careful, strategic experience where every decision mattered, nor did it feel like tense, fast-paced action gameplay. It just felt like a bland battle of attrition. In short, when your defenses work, there is not a whole lot of depth or strategy to it, and it's not very fun. When your defenses fall apart and you're put in a crisis situation, there is not a whole lot of depth or strategy to it, and it's not very fun. Alright, but what about upgrades? Tower defense games usually have some excellent upgrades. I mean, I've sunk countless hours into balloons, even on the easier levels, just because it feels good to be able to see how crazy all the fully upgraded towers are in that game. Upgrades are basically 50% of the appeal of the tower defense genre, and Dwerve is no different. Allegedly. If you look at the store page for Dwerve, they advertise that every tower has its own tree of upgrades that you can progress down. There are over 100 upgrades in all. Sounds good to me. What sort of upgrades do we have, Dwerve? Extra health. More damage. Damage over time. Stun. This is pathetic. If I made a list of the most generic upgrades possible in a video game, there would not be a single upgrade in Dwerve that was not already on that list. And also, what the f*** are you talking about, tree of upgrades? There are 7 for each tower, and you unlock all of them at a time. This isn't other tower defense games where you have a few different mutually exclusive super dope specializations for a tower. No, they're not mutually exclusive. There's no interesting choice of, do I want to shoot giant fireballs or a bunch of laser beams? Instead, it's more like, okay, now I can have stun and +5 damage on my shots. Wow. You just make it vaguely better overall. Who cares? Not only that, but the power level of the towers without upgrades just feels awful. So the only tower I ever wanted to use was the one that I had all my points in at the time. And even that tower was only good. It wasn't interesting, it was just generically, alright, you pass. And while we're talking about upgrades, let's talk about the pickups in this game. Again, the store page advertises that this is a game with exploration and secrets to discover. No, it f***ing isn't. You want to know what the secrets are? Well, when you get damaged in combat, you don't heal automatically. And of the 3 types of secrets I discovered, one of them was a health potion that heals you like a heart in Zelda. Very exciting. The second one was armor, which is a temporary pickup that grants you bonus health that goes away permanently when you lose it, like the ghost hearts in Binding of Isaac, or the yellow hearts in Zelda. Very exciting. Health. Wow. I can say for sure that my favorite discoveries when I play other video games are always the health pickups. But what about the third type of discovery? Well, it's a chest with money in it, the currency that you use to upgrade towers. Usually enough for like half an upgrade for one of your towers. But wait, I lied. There is actually a 4th type of pickup, the key for the chest. You see, the chest is locked and you need a key. If you find one without the other, you don't get anything. In practice, this frequently means you find a chest and think, shit, I missed the key somewhere. Better go look for it. So you painstakingly backtrack through the entire level looking for the key. It takes a long time because your character is slow, and you probably don't even fight anything while exploring like this because all of the fights are on the main path anyways, so you already did them. Not to mention, every single chest is locked behind a lever and button puzzle for seemingly the entire game. That is to say, the sort of puzzle where you hit a switch and one door opens and another door closes. There is only this one variety of puzzle with different configurations used over and over for the entire game. If we look at other adventure games, you might change the water level of an entire area in order to find a secret, or blow up a false wall with a bomb, or fight a particularly unique enemy, basically a hidden mini-boss. In this game, in Dwerve, there are levers and buttons. Honestly, every time that I thought to myself, is that a secret down that path over there? I bet there is. I also thought to myself, do I even care? All I could find is health or money, and I already know what the puzzle will be. Speaking of exploration, this game is linear as all get out. You go from level to level, always forward, there's no way back. The levels are basically straight lines. Actually, they are straight lines. Occasionally, they pretend not to be. At one point, early on, you reach a forest clearing with a path forwards, left, and right. The left and right paths are blocked by wooden fences, so you go forwards. You find a big locked door with 2 giant keyholes, and a cutscene plays. The player character goes, "Oh, look at those keyholes! I should probably go back to that clearing I just saw and go down the side paths to find the keys." Incidentally, you can look forward to the main character of Dwerve always explaining exactly what to do and robbing you of any opportunity to think and discover and experiment with things on your own. This would never happen in a game with a protagonist who was a real dwarf. So you go back to that clearing. At this point, I was early in my playthrough, and the flaws were already revealing themselves, but I still had hope. For one brief moment, I thought to myself, alright, this is about the most basic version of a branching path you could have, but it's better than nothing. I mean, there is a left path and a right path. Surely you can choose to first take either the left path or the right path. Right? You come back to the forest clearing. The 2 side paths were previously blocked off by mysterious, unexplained wooden fences. The fence for one path opens. You go down that path and get the key and come back to the clearing, and the fence for the other path opens. There is literally no reason to force the player to go in that specific order. It is mind-boggling. This exact same trick happens at another point in the story too, where the game pretends there are 2 paths and then immediately tells you to go down the other way if you pick the wrong one. Why even pretend? If it's not apparent from the linear design of the levels, there are no side quests in this game. There are no colorful characters you talk to in between the major story beats. The major story itself is completely forgettable. There is nothing. You follow one path forwards, fighting waves of enemies in encounters that are completely forgettable, and maybe, if you feel like it, you go looking for extra coins because you hope that perhaps, if you get enough upgrades on your towers, then the game will actually become fun. It never does. I wanted to love this game. I love the dwarf aspect, I love tower defense, I love action-adventure games. Unfortunately, this game is the peak of mediocrity, and it's sad. It never ceased to feel like a chore to play. If someone came to me and they said, "Hey, Alaric, I'm looking for something new and different in the tower defense genre. I've already played all the other good stuff in the genre, so don't recommend that to me. I'm not looking for a masterpiece. Just something that I've never seen before, something different." If they said that to me, and I looked at the store, and I saw Dwerve on sale for maybe $5 instead of its current price point of $20, dollars, I might, maybe consider recommending it to them. In any other circumstance, if you are anybody else besides that person, do not bother with this game. It's not worth it. Go play Orcs Must Die, or Bloons, or Defender's Quest, or any of the better free tower defense games you can find on Flash websites, for crying out loud. And if you find any games that star a real dwarf and not this blue-haired namby halfling imposter, please let me know. Okay, one more thing. You fight bosses in this game. You fight them all by spamming ranged towers and dodging their projectiles in an arena until they're dead. It doesn't match the rest of the gameplay at all, and it feels pretty bad. But check this out. I killed this stupid green troll thing, and he explodes into a bunch of money. Now, right before this boss fight, there was an upgrade station. I, having just beaten the boss, now have a lot of money, and want to go backtrack one screen to upgrade my stuff. I can't. The path is blocked. It takes like 10 to 15 minutes before I find a new upgrade station and I can enjoy the rewards I got from this stupid boss fight. What sort of psychopath designs a video game like this?